Howdy. Welcome to St. Kyle's Football Church. Today we will be studying 2 John chapter 12, verse 15. Please stand for the reading of this word. And I looked, and behold, a maroon horse, and his name that sat on him was Conner. And the 12th man followed with him. And power was given unto them over Kyle Field, to kill with football, and with yells, and with death, and with the beasts of Aggie land. Please be seated and bless all Aggies within earshot of the reading of this scripture. Manziel said he sees a little bit of himself in Conner this week. Anais, after the Miami game, said, he's a great quarterback. He's a great leader. He was the most pressured quarterback this week and played pretty well. That's high praise coming after that game, considering everything that he was under. Who is Conner Weigman? That's our big topic for today. Welcome to the AggieCentral podcast. Tonight, my reaction to beating ULM and what we figured out about this team to this point. We're 3 games in. Who is Conner? That's what I think everybody kind of wants to know at this point. And who is this team for this matter? They're 2-1 through 3 games. That loss to Miami on the road, 27th in total defense, 97th in rush, 11th in pass, 81st in turnover margin. Did you expect those numbers? Did you really? Did you think that's what the numbers were going to be? Well, I didn't. I was surprised. But that doesn't really tell us who this team is, right? Stats can't figure this all out fully. Thankfully, I've been delivered a prophecy of great importance. It came to me by way of a vision of a booming voice coming from a burning stack, as any vision should come to an Aggie. It's complicated, that's the deal. There is no easy way to just describe this vision of the team, so I've devised a way to figure it out. This is the Aggies according to Tombstone. I'm going to map the team to the characters in the movie to help us understand who this team is. At least it's going to help me make sense of it, and I'm going to have a little bit of fun during the whole thing anyways, because this is a great movie. If you like Tombstone, this probably right up your alley. If you haven't watched Tombstone, what the hell is wrong with you? Got to be one of the greatest westerns ever, right? Especially in the modern era. It's got to hold up to, Fistful of Dollars or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So for it to be this new, got to be one of the best ones. You got to go out and see it. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into the offensive line and tell you what I think about them. Who are the offensive line? I'm going to, not each one of them individually as characters. I'm going to take them by units in some cases. To me, the offensive line are the Cowboys. Ike, Billy Clanton, and the like. I know you're like, well, come on, you're not mapping these guys to one of the villains, are you? Well, yes, I am, but it makes more sense once you understand the full picture here. So, who are the Cowboys? They're very loyal. They're ride or die. But here's the thing. At any given time, one is liable to just completely act a fool and wig out on you, right? Our offensive line has had their busts, they've had their whiffs, but they've had their moments of outright beauty. When they're, all on the same page, when they're all in alignment, they really, really get things done. And that's what the Cowboys did. That's why it's what I see in them. I'm not talking about the evilness of them. The Cowboys in and of themselves were cowards. Our offensive line are not that. They play hard through and through. They can't match up perfectly, but you see the connection. We have these times whenever the offensive line is just, it's like, what happened? Where'd they go? Have you heard about Trey Zune though? Another stat that jumped out to me. I heard this guy was graded in like the top 90th percentile of offensive line this last week. Is that not crazy? Do you not feel like that does not fit the narrative? Those defensive stats earlier did not fit the narrative either, and this one doesn't either. We've been critical of this guy, and that's really making me start to rethink some things, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this particular one on the tail end of the ULM game, right? The ULM game in which we put up 557 yards of offense, and we held them to 222 yards. Yes, it's just the Warhawks. But still, we do 399 yards passing. We go 32 of 40, and that's with Max Johnson's numbers in as well. We're like 10 yards per pass, y'all. 4.8 yards per carry, and still 33 attempts rushing. And we did 40 passing. We only had like 50 yards worth of penalties, and we're possessing the ball like 35 minutes. 28 first downs to ULM's 8. That's a pretty good outing. I think I saw a lot of differences in this game, but those stats don't quite tell everything, right? You've got to look at these things and kind of make an assessment and a judgment, which is, again, why we're going to go on to the next. How about the DBs? Now, the Cowboys, they lived and died by Curly Bill, right? He was their leader. Our defense is the same way, in my opinion. Statistically, they're not that bad as we've seen before. I did not expect those statistics, y'all. They to me, it's crazy, but statistically, they're not that bad. We've seen them be great at times. Other times, it's just a complete head scratcher, to be quite honest. I thought the coverage was much better in the ULM game. We still had a couple of misses where we're not batting down passes. That's one of the main things that I took away from it. But the coverage looked better. I thought they were where they needed to be when they needed to be there. The Cowboys were controlled by Curly Bill. So my belief is that the defense is basically controlled by the DBs. I think as the DBs go, the defense will go. Okay, so as Curly Bill went, that's how the Cowboys went. No relationship to the offensive line. I'm not, relating characters. They're not supposed to be interwoven like that. So don't take me there with that. But I think this defense will be as good as the DBs let them be. Okay, we've seen Damani struggle. We've seen DeBerry have flashes of greatness, but also some struggling. Deuce Harmon was a really nice surprise this last week, and I thought he had a really, really great game. Chappelle feels like he kind of wants to get back in the groove a little bit. And Bryce Anderson, to me, is a stud. Still some things for these guys to learn, but I think when they're on top of their game, this defense will be a lockdown. Now, you didn't think I was going to leave the coaches out of this, did you? I hope not, because I got to have some more fun with this. I'm really feeling myself on this right now. So let's go ahead and jump into Petrino real quick. Who from Tombstone is Petrino? How about this? He's the love we didn't have for so long. And who was that in the movie? That was Josephine, right? The actress. Earp was quite smitten with her. His commitment, however, was to Maddie, his wife. She was his priority, and he wasn't a cheater. And this is going to make a lot more sense when we get to Jimbo. He stood with Maddie right up into the end. Later on, after her passing, he finally got his room service and his hotel living with Josephine. Now, I feel like that's what we're getting right now with Petrino, right? We're kind of getting everything that we wanted to have gotten the last few years now out of Petrino, right? Right now, our O is 27th with over 1,400 yards and 460 per game. Y'all, this is up from 93rd last year so far. So, yeah, this is our leading lady right now. Petrino, not going to catch much flack from most anybody at this point because of what he's doing with his offense right now. Maybe a lot of that has to do with Conner, and we'll figure him out in a second. But a lot of props to Petrino for what he's done with this offense so far. So who does that make Jimbo? What's the sentiment with Jimbo right now? Well, how about this? Jimbo is Maddie. Jimbo is Earp's wife, right? He's got to be Maddie. And this kind of gets a little bit out there, y'all. I'm not even going to lie, but it kind of matches. It really does. She's what's holding him back. Is this not how Aggies feel kind of right now? I mean, convince me something different later on. I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. But right now, I think that's where we're at. So sadistic to think about, but right now, she's kind of our diseased lover. We owe this guy somewhere like $60+ million, right, if we want to buy him out. So if it's not going to work out this year, like we're kind of tied to this guy. And I don't know if we've got a chemo treatment, to be quite honest. So does that not kind of like just fit this whole relationship to a bill? Maddie was just constantly on that bottle trying to, deal with the situation, and she was really unpleasant a lot of the time. Thankfully, Jimbo's good in his pressers, and we kind of enjoy that, especially on winning weeks. But man, it could turn ugly kind of quick. And if we have to cut it loose, maybe there's something better on the other side. Hopefully it doesn't happen, y'all. How about the defensive line and linebackers? I'm going to lump them together. It's kind of my front seven. But with Durkin, it's kind of the front six, right? And don't you worry, Durkin's going to get his. Durkin's going to get his. So right now, they're very much a supporting role right now. This is most aptly characterized and labeled, mapped to Morgan, which is Earp's brother, right? He's the youngest brother, brother to Virgil and Earp. In the movie, Virgil knew something had to be done in town. The Cowboys were getting out of hand, so he took on the role of Marshal. Morgan had to back his brother's play, just like Wyatt taught him, right? That's what Wyatt taught him, and he told him in the end. He said, he showed him the badge, gotta back your brother's play, Wyatt, just like you taught me. This group seems to be destined to kind of play a backup role with the way it's running right now, right? That's kind of the way Durkin's calling the defense. A lot of talent on there, and I think Morgan had a lot to give. He had a huge heart. He wanted to do what's right. He kind of needed somebody to let him loose, though, show him the way. It's almost like he hadn't fully become his own man yet. You know what I mean? Virgil was kind of a different guy. I won't get to him in a second, but this defensive line, these linebackers, particularly the defensive line, they seem like they need to be kind of let loose. They need to be harnessed. And right now, it's like they're being pushed to the side and they're being kind of held back a little bit. Now, I'm not saying I like all that, but that's just that's where it is right now. I wish we'd recognize how much heart is down there and let these guys really open themselves up. They could be great, just like Morgan was. Running backs are Virgil for me. They take the lead. Virgil took the lead. They're a strong group. Emerging, if you will, right? So Virgil just couldn't stand not doing the right thing and standing up for others. He just couldn't take that. He was too much in him that didn't sit right with. He had in my opinion, he had the exact same heart as Wyatt, although Wyatt might not have been connected to his as much, but Virgil's was, and he had that same drive and heart to do something about the evil that was out there. And so he went and did it. This running back group, to me, is no doubtedly not going to settle for anything less than what is best. They have huge talent. Huge talent. It's actually going a lot of the way I oddly enough predicted. I can't believe it. I thought that Amari Daniels would start off as the starter. And then I thought it would kind of give away to Ruben Owens. It looks like it's starting to take shape that way. Does it not? And rightfully so to a degree. I really like what Amani did. That fumble in the Miami game might have bumped him down a notch to let Moss and Owens get more playing time and see what they can do. And Owens is super, super talented. In the ULM game, he made some cuts that were just downright filthy. Made a lot out of that running game that helped when the blocking wasn't quite there. We're a little shaky sometimes on the run blocking from the offensive line, in my opinion, and sometimes we don't get set from the tight end side of things. And that's all work in progress. It's getting better. But that's who the team is right now. And when he's able to be let loose full in his abilities, he has that big break potential to get us those extra yards that we wouldn't necessarily have gotten without special talent like him in that way. And I think Moss can do the same. Not Amari as well. However, right now I would say Owens is probably showing the most talent on the field. I'm definitely not letting Durkin loose on this, right? So who is he? Take you a second. Think about it. Who do you think Durkin is? Because I'm going full apocalypse on this one right now. And I'll walk it back a little bit afterwards. But Durkin, to me, is Johnny Ringo. And I think he fits the likeness as well. Wherever Ringo went, destruction followed. I don't mean that in the good way, y'all. Now, we're 36th in rush D, 53rd in pass defense, 39th in total D. Like I said, those numbers aren't that bad, so I am going to walk it back just a little. But we're going to sit on that for a second because stats don't tell the whole story. You know your eyes are telling you something as well, right? He seems to have all the skill in the world, but like Ringo, he oriented himself in a direction that seemed to be evil. Remember the wedding at the beginning? All the cowboys took out the wedding party, right? Ringo took out the pastor. I mean, you talk about some evil stuff right there. I mean, just nonchalantly, bam, guy's gone. Didn't give a second thought to the whole thing either. It's like, for me, you see the genius in what he's doing, but it just manifests in the wrong way. I don't know how else to say it, y'all. Schemes, calls, how he's imparted his plan to the players just seems to be lost. Talk about him a little bit more in a minute, but if that defense gets it together and he proves me wrong, I'd be thrilled. Right now, 39th, and my eyes don't quite match up. I don't know what it is. I'm going to give him some credit for it. I will say I'm surprised with that number, and I'm glad to see that number. So that's partly who this team is currently right now. But we saw what happened in the Miami game, and we're going to need to see more. We've seen them struggle in the New Mexico game. We're going to need to see more. It looked better this game, so credit there. However, I'm not going to believe it until I fully see it. That's where I'm going to be at with this, okay? So we'll talk more about him a little bit in the whole team dynamic and where we're at with this in this part, I think. But for now, he's Johnny Ringo, okay? During the fight at the OK Corral, it's been stated historically accurate that one of the Cowboys said, "I got you now, Doc, you son of a bitch." To which Doc replied, "You're a daisy if you do." Our passing game is currently ranked 11th in the country, over 1,000 yards passing through 3 games and 10 TDs. That's up nearly 70 places on average from the last 2 years. So that's how bad our passing offense has been. Our wide receivers are your huckleberry. Like Doc, they seem to be prone to some sickness. Noah was out this last week. I'm not sure what's exactly going on with Stewart. Maybe a little bit of injury here and there. But between Noah, Stewart, Walker, Moose, Anias, defenses think they got these dudes. They're no daisy. You understand what I'm saying to you? Watch the movie if you haven't. They're no daisy. That's plain and simple. This is a dangerous group right here, y'all. Very, very dangerous. Doc Holliday was the most dangerous person with a gun. They put him on the street howitzer, right? Why? Because they were going to be less liable to get antsy. But he instigated it, didn't he? At the OK Corral, he winked at Billy Clanton. That set him off, and that's when Wyatt Earp knew it was getting ready to go down. Doc is dangerous, y'all. He marches to his own tune. He doesn't really take orders, but he'll go with you. And that leaves us with the final spot. You got to understand that. I think you probably all knew we were going to go this way, but there's some method to the madness too, because Conner, our QB, has got to be Wyatt Earp. To me, it's a little bit more fun to kind of think about which Wyatt Earp is he. And you're like, what? What do you mean, which Wyatt Earp? What do you mean? There's only one Wyatt Earp. No. Hear me out. In the beginning of the movie, when they first got to Tombstone, you had Wyatt Earp, and I'm going to say this, pre-saloon, okay? There's 3 Wyatt Earps in this movie, okay? First one is pre-saloon. What does that mean? Pre-saloon, he was just there to make some money. He was there in retirement. He was not looking to get involved with anything, right? And we see this kind of digress a little bit, or progress. He goes in the saloon one day, he talks to the owner, and you've got Johnny Tyler over, Dylan Farrow, and he's just bullying people outright and all sorts of things. Wyatt's got that heart, though. He can't let something like that just sit. So he goes over there and he talks to him, tells him he's sitting in his chair. Can you believe that? The audacity for him to go up and tell this guy he's sitting in his chair. He's been sitting there all day, right? Making a statement. Damn near a political statement. And he knows what this guy is. He knows he's full of you know what. And he calls him out. So he transitioned from pre-saloon to that saloon. Now he's got the Pharaoh game in his corner and he's making money off of that. But he had to go through Johnny Tyler and he had to vacate him. He couldn't let that, ridiculousness that was that man continue to do it. It just didn't sit right with him. Well, then he moves on after things have progressed. Virgil has become Marshall. Morgan has backed his play. He didn't want to get involved, but he's going to roll with his brothers. He knows what the Cowboys are doing is wrong. That progresses and it gets even worse. Morgan gets killed, and now it's on. So now that you've heard all that, which one of these is Conner? And it makes a big deal. Is he so early in that he doesn't really know what's going on yet? Is he right in the middle where he's the full-fledged Wyatt Earp, where he's got all the skills, all the tools, and he's a dangerous man to deal with? Or is he towards the end of this? And he's maxed out, right? At the very end, when he finally takes down Curly Bill in a fit of rage, he's primed Wyatt. And this is kind of Wyatt at his best. Curly Bill can't even shoot his gun straight for some reason at him, misses him over and over and over, and Wyatt takes him down. Conner, to me right now, is a surgeon. But he's a surgeon in residency. He's not a full-fledged doctor yet. So this helps me make my choice to say that Conner is the Wyatt Earp that had just taken over the saloon. But I need to tell you something. This is extremely scary for me. Okay? Anais said he cares, he wants to win, he's trying to bring everybody along with him, and that he's been in the film room to no end this last week, learning how to slide coverages and what to do with them just in general. This guy is playing really well. And I don't think that we've seen the best yet. Do you understand what this means? Do you get the sense you've seen the best? He was able to make some nice progress this last week through his preparation. I think we're getting ready to see a generational talent. This is not Johnny, y'all. I'm here to tell you right now, this is not Johnny. I don't think Johnny wants him to be Johnny. Johnny is the type of guy to be like, go be your own guy. This is a completely different animal. This is a different beast that is going to be slaying all these teams, hopefully, right? I think it's going to happen. Either way, this guy's going to put down numbers. And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be something to behold. I hope you're at the game this weekend. I'll be there. Can't wait to see us against Auburn. Preview's coming up tomorrow. How about the team, though? Overall, who is this team? Let's talk about Durkin's D real quick. A lot's been said about the three-man front. I've said a lot about the two high safeties. So let me clarify this. I was challenged on Twitter about this, so I want to take some time on this. I think it's a good thing for me to do. I don't want to ever steer you guys wrong. If you see me in the comments, I'm here to, first off, have fun, but always give it to you as best I can and be honest. It's not fair for me to say that the two high safety or the three-man front is the problem inherently. It can be. That's not actually true. So what we're doing here is we're kind of placing our frustration on the situation. And hear me out. I alluded to the fact that I can see the genius in Durkin. I'm sure that's a hugely controversial statement. But here's the thing. If you look at some plays, we're running, say, the 3-3. We got the two high safeties. It works really well sometimes. So where I think to kind of label this defense is kind of like to where we might label our offense last year. A lot of people said it was complicated. They said that it was just too much, it wasn't easy to pick up. I kind of think that's what's happening here. This defense that he's running, I can see why it would work really well. I can see that it would prevent the deep ball a lot, and that's probably why we have a good rating, even though most teams have played 3 cupcakes through 3 weeks at this point. We have not, and in fact, we may have played one of the better teams in college football so far, week 2. What if that happens to be true, by the way? We're not going to get off on that tangent right now, but what if that happens to be true, and there we look back and we say, man, that Miami team was a lot better than they got credit for? And what if we figure out that, when A&M lost that game, they just kind of fell back into default mode and said, oh, this is that 5-7 team again. Okay, we'll see how that irons out. But the genius is that when that defense is read correctly, they are very easily able to run into a rush to the other team running, but they're also very easily to drop back into coverage. But it has to do a lot with reading. And when they don't read right, or they hesitate and they don't hit the rush head on, and they don't react to it quickly, now there's a problem. Now they're not meeting the run until 2-3 yards down the field, and we're giving up massive yardage. It also is predicated a lot of times when we only have let's say we're kind of running more of a 3-2-1 on the side over here. Whenever the 2 linebackers get slightly out of lane, you can get a really big hole open up very quickly. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing kind of what we're doing. So it's not that it's a bad defense. I think it's just a little bit more difficult to run than, say, something is just like running and gunning at you. Okay? So I think that's kind of what's going on. If we could ever get it figured out and we could ever do it really well, which is actually kind of Arkansas circa 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember when they beat us with bumper pool, but they really did a good job of having their linebackers either play the run or play the pass. And when they did that they were on fire. They stunted with 3 men, and they gave us all kinds of fits because of that. We didn't know where the pressure was coming from because they constantly had 3 close to the line, getting ready to rush, even from the linebacker position or whatever. When it's at its height, it's a pretty dadgum good defense. I just don't know if we know how to run it right now. Our O. Here's what we know about our O, in my opinion. They can play with anybody in the country. That we know that they're going to keep us in games. Okay? It's going to be left up to that defense to see what kind of games we can keep in, stay in. But this O can pretty much keep us in any game. Okay? That's how good they are. And again, this is scary, y'all. It's scary. Why? Because overall, who this team is right now is there's somebody that's growing. I don't know how else to say it. They're growing. They're getting better. They're going to get better, I believe, week by week. I think the best is still yet to come, especially due to Conner's growth. And it's just going to I think it's going to get sick, y'all. And I mean that in the best way I possibly can. I'm really excited to see what happens again this week against Auburn. We're going to find out so much more about this team. This is where I think we're at right now. I hope it shows out in Auburn. I will give you a preview tomorrow, and I'll tell you what I think we're up against in the predictions. Hopefully I've got a pretty good beat on these guys. I think I do. Had a pretty good prediction on this last game. We were 47-3. I had 56-6. Gaps almost right on. I took us to cover. We covered. I missed last week against Miami. Spot on the week before, though, pretty much, with a few variations. So trying to give you the best information I can and lead you as best I can when it comes to my takes. Y'all can always make up your own take, but I don't ever want to lead you astray. So I'll give you what I can tomorrow and give you the best outlook on Auburn I can. And then we'll see on Saturday where this team wants to go. All right? All right. Until then, thanks again.